All right, guys, it is Wednesday and it's me, Miss Rudd. We're halfway through our week, so let's get going with our ELA lesson for today. Okay, so today we're going to hit a little bit about author's purpose and we're going to go into more detail about it next week, but we're just going to talk really quick about it right now. Okay, author's purpose is as easy as P-I-E. The P stands for persuade. The I stands for inform. The E stands for entertain. So when we think about the author's purpose, you may be saying to yourself, what is the author's purpose, Miss Rudd? What does that mean? The author's purpose is why authors write a text. So when you think about, there are three reasons or three main things that an author is trying to do. They could be trying to persuade, they could be trying to inform, and they could be trying to entertain. So again, what is the author's purpose? I didn't hear you. The author's purpose is why authors write a text. Okay? So the author's purpose, say it, pause your video and say it one more time. Okay, now so let's go through each one. Persuade. Persuade means to convince or change the way the readers think. So when authors are trying to persuade us, they're trying to convince us to do something or buy something or try something, or they're trying to change our minds about something. So let's look at some examples of some book titles. Remember when we read the true story of the three little pigs? In that story, the wolf was trying to get us to believe that he was not a bad wolf. Remember how he tried to go through and explain his side of the story? That's an example of the author trying to persuade us, or the narrator trying to persuade us. Another example of persuade. Have you ever gone in the store and you see a sign that says buy one, get one free? When you see those kinds of signs, the stores or the companies are trying to persuade you or convince you to buy one item by giving you another one free. Okay, and if you've ever seen this, I know everybody's seen this advertisement. When you see those Chick-fil-A cows, they're holding up those signs that say eat more chicken. What are they trying to persuade you to do? They're trying to convince you to eat more chicken. And if you ever pay attention to your mom or your dad or watch the news with them, we have seen lots of ads or signs or billboards about the election coming up, trying to persuade or convince your family who to vote for. So these are all examples of how authors try to persuade us. The next letter in pi is inform. And when authors want to inform us, they want to give us information, or they want to teach us about something. Okay, so let's look at some examples. If I read a book about simple machines, this book would give me information about how these simple machines work. If I read a book about what can live in the ocean, that book would give me information or teach me about what lives in the ocean. Okay, if I read a book about Martin Luther King Jr., that book would teach me about Martin Luther King. And if we read this book recently about bats, this book gave us information and taught us about bats. And the last purpose or reason that authors write is to entertain. And entertain, that means that the authors want to tell a story that we will enjoy. Okay, so if I read this book, Fluffy Strikes Back, I can look at that book and right off the bat, I know that that's not going to be a real book. It's going to be a fiction book, so it could be something that is going to tell me a story that I'm going to enjoy. If I look at this book, Jayla Cole, Queen of the Gold, that's going to tell me a fun or exciting story about a girl who plays soccer. Or if you've ever watched the movie Frozen 2, that's a movie that they wrote that movie so that we will enjoy it. And this week we read I Need My Monster, and that book was a story for us to enjoy. We enjoyed that story. Okay, now, once again, this part is review also. We've talked about the plot before. We said in the beginning we learn about the characters and we learn what the setting is. In the middle, we learn what happens to the characters, what is the problem or what is wrong in the story. And we said in the end, we learn how the characters are different from how they were in the beginning. They've changed some kind of way a lot of times. And we also learned by the end how the problem is solved. Then we also said that a story has a problem, and that tells us what goes wrong for the main character, and we have a solution to that problem, and that tells us how the problem is fixed or solved. And we use all of these things that make up the plot, the different parts of the story to make up the plot to help us understand the passage or story that we're reading better. Okay, and then also we've been talking about sequencing this week, and sequencing is when you put things in order or the order of events in a story. So let's look at an example. Okay, we see these kids, and the sentence says, first, our class stands in line and we wait our turn to enter the cafeteria. Second, we tell the cafeteria workers what we would like to eat. Then we bring our lunch to the table. After that, we sit with our class and eat our lunch. And last, we bring our garbage to the garbage can. Okay, so if you look at these events, these are the events for doing what? What are these kids doing? Yeah, they're going to lunch. So let's look at our clues. So first, we see that clue word first. That tells us that it's the beginning. It's at the beginning of the story. Other clue words would be before, in the beginning, to begin, or initially. All of those clue words let us know that these events happen in the beginning of a story. Our next clue words, second, then, after that, all of these clue words are going to tell us that these things happen in the middle of the story. Other examples are later, next, then, after that, also. And our final clue word is last. And we see last, and we know that that means that it took place at the end of the story. And other examples are finally, afterward, eventually, in conclusion, and last. So pause your video and look back over these clue words that help us know and be able to put things in order that they happened in the way of the story. Pause your video and look back over these clue words. All right, great job. Okay, so now we're going to read this passage and we're going to put these events in order that the way they happen in the story. But first, I want you to pause your video and read over this paragraph to yourself. And then we're going to read it together. So pause your video and you read it, then we'll read it together. Okay, now let's read together. Whitney is going on a field trip to the zoo. The bus arrives at school to pick up the students. At the zoo, the students have to buy tickets to get in the gate. The first thing Whitney sees are the elephants. She feeds them peanuts. Next, Whitney sees the lions. There are 3 lions in the den. Then, Whitney walks to see the giraffes. Whitney gets to pet the giraffe's long neck. This is her favorite part of the day. After Whitney eats lunch, she packed a jelly sandwich. Finally, it is time to go back to school. Okay, so now I've read that passage, and if you need to go back and read it one more time, boys and girls, feel free to pause it and go back and read it again so that you'll be able to answer and understand what we're reading about and looking for. Okay, so the first sentence that we're looking to sequence, Whitney gets to pet a giraffe. And remember we talked about we like to highlight and color code these events so that it makes it much, much easier for us to match up. So pause your video and find the part of the story that says, that talks about where Whitney gets to pet a giraffe. Did you find it? Yes, there it is right there. So I'm going to, okay, now I'm going to move to the next one. She eats a jelly sandwich. I'm going to highlight that one. Pause your video and find where that sentence is. Okay, and the next sentence, Whitney sees the elephants. Pause your video and find that sentence. Okay, the bus arrives at school. Pause your video and find that sentence. And the last one, the students buy tickets. Pause your video and find that sentence. Okay, so now you found them. Now let's highlight them and match them to have them color coded. So the first sentence, Whitney gets to pet a giraffe. Where did you point to? That's right. Whitney gets to pet the giraffe's long neck. The next event, she eats a jelly sandwich. Did you find that? Yes, you did. It said after Whitney eats lunch, she packed a jelly sandwich. Okay, the next one, Whitney sees the elephants. Did you find that one? Okay, put your finger back on it. You were correct. The first thing Whitney sees are the elephants, and the next sentence says the bus arrives at school. Did you find that? Put your finger on it. You got it. The bus arrives at school to pick up the students. And the final event, the students buy tickets. Do you remember where you pointed to? There it is. At the zoo, the students have to buy tickets to get in the gate. Okay, so which item happened first in this list of events? Which one did we highlight first? Yes, the bus arrives at school because we see when we highlighted and color coded, that event happened first. Okay, what event happened next? Yes, keep going in order. The students buy tickets. It happened right after the bus arrives. Okay, and what is the third thing that happens? After they buy their tickets, what happened next? Yes, Whitney sees the elephants. And after Whitney sees the elephants, what's the next event that happens? Yes, Whitney gets to pet a giraffe. And the final event that happens in our text is she eats a jelly sandwich. That happens last from our list that we have to pick from. Okay, great. Now we're going to go. I want you to go to Epic just like you did on Monday, and you're going to read this story. Hey, that's my monster. It is available on Epic, and I have put the AR quiz for you here for you also. So I want you to go and make sure you listen and read that book before your Zoom call with your teacher. And I want you to be able to put the events in order. I want you to be able to retell this story in order. Tell what happens in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Is there a problem that you notice in this story? And what steps, what order of events happen to fix that problem? So once you pick out what is wrong, how does the character in the story solve that problem? Okay? All right, so I'll talk to you all tomorrow.